Welcome to the Heart of the Matter podcast, where we have honest and vulnerable conversations about life and relationships. We always say, don't think you're going to come out here with your clothes on. We getting butt naked today. We skinny dipping, okay? Because listen, as much as we love your successes, that's dope. But here, you're going to get celebrated because of your vulnerability, about your challenges and your failures, because that's where the growth happens. I'm your boy, Christopher Doc Reed, life and relationship coach. I'm here with my homeboy, Pook. What's up, bro?
What's happening, man?
You excited, man?
I'm very excited.
I always ask you that.
Yeah, you do.
Because I just can never tell.
Nah, I know.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very excited.
Okay, you excited?
This is Mr. Mellow Fellow.
Yeah.
He is. And y'all already heard the guest before I could do the amazing intro, which I hope I can do him justice. Listen, this guy, he blessed us. He blessed us. In the late 80s, with his voice, he blessed us. Songs like Lovey Dovey, Everlasting Love, and the song that will not die, okay, With You. Now, if you've been to a wedding in the last 50 years, you've heard this song With You, because they're going to be singing it until Jesus comes back. And I think Jesus might be singing it when he comes back. I don't know, but help us. Welcome to the podcast, Tony Terry.
Exactly.
What's up, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing great, man. I got to correct you on something, though.
What?
50? Really? Can we go, 35?
50 just sounded good. You know what I mean? Sometimes you be on one and you just say, just go with it, man. You know, it felt good. You know what I mean? But okay, 40. I give you 40. You know what I mean? You good, man?
I'm excellent.
You look amazing,
I feel
bro.
great. I feel great. We just had a great show out in the city square in Cincinnati.
Yep.
And it went very well.
That's
Very
good.
well.
Well, I know one reason it went well, man, because
This guy here.
No.
No,
This
well,
guy here.
no, Pook sucks. Whatever he did, it's garbage. But I can tell you, first of all, you're a real singer.
He's a
Yeah,
real
thank you.
singer.
Okay.
Real singer.
No, seriously. I mean like a real singer. And here's what I know about real singers, man. Y'all got a condition. It's a twitch
Yeah.
when y'all hear flat notes.
Yeah.
Like, so if you sitting there and it's another singer on stage, you may love them, but then they go, and you, you know what I'm saying? You feel what I'm
We
saying?
call him out every chance we get.
You got to keep them honest, man.
Yeah.
Okay? So, listen, we don't sing flat around. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
It's not wise. It's not wise.
he's going to let you know. But listen, before we get into this, please, y'all, subscribe if you like the podcast, because we want to keep the content coming. Also, got to thank our sponsor, New Image Entertainment.
Yeah.
Our homeboy, Tony Sanders, man. Appreciate you so much. Okay, now, let's get into this thing. So, Tony, you know what? The world knows you as a performer, singer. You do that extremely well. I don't know how much they've been blessed to get to know the man, the son, the father, the husband. So when we talk about the heart of the matter, we go deep, you know, and because there's so much that we can learn, you know, from your experiences. So here's where we start. We ask, when you were growing up, what did your parents teach you about relationships by either what they told you or showed you? They prepared you or didn't prepare you for what you didn't know was to come?
That's a good question. My parents were together for 55 years.
Nice.
So they showed me that.
Longevity.
The lesson was about not quitting, not giving up. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have their issues, because every couple does, but my dad never left, my mom never left. So that meant to me, you know, when you're in, you're in. You're in for life.
Did they give you the cheat codes? Meaning, sometimes we see our parents, because Pook has that same story too. Parents stay together. But did they say, this is what helped us stay together?
Well, not really an outright conversation about it, but I think it was just by example. Okay, so both my parents came from large families.
Okay.
All right. What they didn't do was a whole lot of outward expressions of love.
Okay.
You know your love language?
I think I do.
Touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and what's the other one? Quality time.
Quality time, things that I like to do. That's just who I am. I like all those things.
Okay, so
both
you all
giving
okay.
and receiving.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So if one of yours is physical touch, there was not a lot of
it wasn't not in the beginning.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, and of course we are. I was a grown man before I began to exchange "I love yous" with my father.
Probably common for that generation.
Yeah, because if you're raising 10 children, you don't really have time to give individual "I love yous" and time and attention and hugs and gifts and all those things that are the languages of love. That are the language of love. But you have a roof over your head, you have a bed to sleep in, you have clothes, you have food, you have fundamentals, you have spirituality, you have limits, you have boundaries, if you will, respect, tolerance. Where I came from a small town in North Carolina where we first of all said hello to everybody. And
Culture,
if people have walked up to our family house and said, "I'm hungry," well, we feed them.
Right.
Wow.
Feed them till they couldn't eat anymore, and then send them on their way. That the blessing in that was to not look for a blessing, but to realize that we were blessed that we had that to give.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's it. That's enough. So you don't look for something else when someone needs and you have. That's the blessing.
Right.
My parents taught me humility.
Okay.
They, again, as I said, I was a grown man, and that was awkward because I said it first. I said it to my father first.
What made you say it?
I just wanted to because that's a good question. So I'm growing up. I'm me, Tony Terry, and I felt like my dad didn't know who I was.
What made you? What about that feeling about?
Because it seemed like that, but I learned something about my father during that time because I learned that he couldn't give me what he didn't have.
Yes, sir.
So I couldn't hold him accountable for that. I couldn't be angry. So at first I thought, my dad don't love me. He never told me he loves me. He never done, he doesn't seem to be aware of even, okay, so.
How long did you feel that feeling, that void that, man, my dad don't love me?
Probably a while.
What age would you say?
Well, when it began to manifest and I began to feel some way about it, there was a couple of probably in my late 20s and then again in my 30s, but then again in my 40s. When I began experiencing, because I'm 60 now.
Wow,
so when
bro,
I began
you
to
look great for 60.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I began to experience anxiety.
Really?
And I wasn't sure, one, what it was. I wasn't sure
I've suffered from anxiety.
why
too.
it was, how, I didn't know. I wasn't even sure that it was anxiety.
How did it show up for you?
And
what were the
restlessness
symptoms? Okay.
and panic and just kind of like the room is closing in on me. Like I had to move from one space to the next. I had to go outside.
What were your triggers that would bring on the attacks?
That's the thing. I wasn't sure what the triggers were because it seemed like it was happening out of nowhere. But I began to investigate. Okay. So I remembered exchanges that me and my dad had when I was a teenager. It's interesting because I think I might have been sharing this with my manager recently.
Okay.
And when I said, I had an exchange with my father, and this is while I'm still living in the house. And what I heard him say, or at least what was left with me, was, "I hate you." But that's not what he said at all.
I know, no, that was your interpretation,
Right.
but that
That's
still
what
was
I
the
took
imprint,
away.
though.
That was the imprint. Okay, so he might have been saying, "I hate what you're doing." Yeah. Or "I don't understand why you're doing this, and I hate it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I heard, "I hate you," And I carried that for a long time. And I remember calling my mother because these things started happening, being restless and having panic attacks out of nowhere. Just, why is this happening? So I told my mother about it. Called her one day, told her what was happening and why I thought it was happening. And she said, well, your daddy right here. Tell him.
I love it, Mom. Dukes. Yeah, he right here.
So,
That seems so simple,
So
Mom.
simple.
right. So she put him on the phone, and a conversation that I thought was going to be awkward wasn't. Was I told him, what was
And
happening.
how old were you at this time?
I'm 40. I'm in my 40s.
All these years, it could have just been that simple thing, but you didn't know.
You know what triggered it? Wow. An episode of Oprah Winfrey.
Really? Which one? What
When
were they
she
talking about?
had a panel of men who had all suffered some kind of abuses and had suppressed them. or,
Tyler
you know-
Perry, was he on that one?
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
He wasn't. Just regular guys. And I sat there and I just began to, I was fully engrossed in
Yeah.
the subject and just started releasing.
Crying?
And crying.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure why.
That's crazy.
So my wife was walking in and I was like, what's wrong with you? Well, first of all, why are you watching Oprah Winfrey?
Men can watch Oprah Winfrey. It's okay.
But it was the subject matter that pulled me in. You know,
Right,
I
right,
probably was walking by
Yeah.
and heard the conversation, and then I sat there and watched it. So when I told my dad what I thought I heard, he was like, the first thing is that I had been carrying this thing for all these years, and he wasn't even thinking about it because it's not something that he did. You know what I'm saying? So I told him, I think that this happened. And I took him back all the way back to the incident, and he was like, I would never say anything like that to my children. Wow. He began to question how he was as a father. I said, nah, Dad, you were a great dad. I'm just saying this thing happened, and I think, I'm not sure, because you know how you can be something, have something that someone may have done or that you perceive that they may have done to you, and it's festering. But that person is not even thinking twice about it.
Right.
They're going on with their lives. But you're stuck
Yeah.
emotionally with what you think happened. And I think that's partially what happened to me. But I talked to my dad. He was like, I would never have done that. But he also said, you're making me question how I raised my children. And I was like, I had to find myself reassuring
But
him.
you know what? I respect that. I respect that he was vulnerable enough to consider, is there something that I might have done? Because, I, as a relationship coach, I hear a lot of times when a parent has done something that has negatively impacted
they won't
their
even own it.
child, and the child tries to, I didn't do that. That didn't happen to you. And they're so dismissive instead of just saying, okay, maybe I did that, but if I did that, I'm sorry.
He said that. He said, it's not something I remember, but if I did that to you, son, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that brought about another release.
Yeah.
Because first of all, my fear of addressing my father about something that I wasn't sure if he remembered, if he meant it, if he did, But here we were, and he released it for me by saying if I did that, I certainly didn't mean to, and if I did, I'm sorry. Well, that was enough for me. Let that go.
Right.
Now,
right,
whatever it was that was giving me anxiety after that, it wasn't that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I had to start dealing with those other things. And it is something that, people think that entertainers are impervious to a lot of the things of the world. They don't realize that I'm just a person who makes a living making music.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. I have to get up and go to work every day just like you do. I just do something different.
Absolutely.
And we've been conditioned to hold up our entertainers, especially in the black culture. Hold them up, support them until they get to that plateau, until they get to the pedestal that we've put them on.
Absolutely.
And then they start slicing them up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
With no regard for their feelings and no regard to the fact that, and not even recognize that, the things that people say actually hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes we might not show that, but we have to deal with that. So I don't read reviews, whether good or bad.
But here's part of the thing as an entertainer, I think that plays into that, or people who do things in the public space, it's the mantra, the show must go on.
The show must go
How
on.
How many shows out of all these years Tony has done where he was dying on the inside, but you were hired so that everybody watching you could have a certain experience? Because when they hear your song that they say is my song, they don't mean it selfishly, but I bought this ticket and I expect you to do what you do, you know? So there is not a lot of room for you to have a human experience. Now, sometimes maybe when you're singing the song, you can connect and say, hey, listen, you know, I'm going through something right now and I really appreciate the love y'all giving me. You can have that, but still don't stay there too long because I want to hear the song, okay?
Yeah, but they do respond. Because sometimes, like, I'll have to admit, perfect example, when I lost my mother.
Yeah. So I was gonna bring that up.
I lost my mother, but I had a gig in Cincinnati.
Definitely did.
And I lost my mother the day I had the gig. And, you know, that morning I was awakened with a phone call. And after I came to pieces and my crew was trying to figure out what to do and who else to bring in to replace me, and we decided we was going to bring in another artist to replace me. And I talked to my sisters and they said, Mom would want you to go to work. But I knew that. But there's nothing you could do. And so I said to them, I'm going to go to work, which surprised everybody.
Right,
Like,
right,
what?
right.
What are you talking about? No, I'm going to go to work. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to work. And you know what's really interesting? That day was beautiful. It was a beautiful sunny day. And then all of a sudden, a weather report came on. It said that there was going to be a deluge, a downpouring, a rain thunderstorm was going to happen, and it was going to start at 9 o'clock or whatever time I was supposed to take the stage. The same time this thunderstorm was supposed to start. That's crazy. The city canceled the gig. If I had pulled out, it would have been a different set of different dynamics.
Yeah,
I would have to pay money back.
Yeah.
I would have to bring in my replacement at my expense, put him up, pay him, et cetera, et cetera. But I decided to do the gig, and then the city canceled, and they gave me all of my money.
Oh, that's God.
That was God, because I didn't know how I was going to get through it, but my willingness to go ahead. I was like, man, Ma, thank you. And then the next day, Houston, I'm still in that same space.
Absolutely.
But before I started, I told the audience, listen, I lost my mama. I might walk off and take a minute, but I'm coming back. But just know that I ain't up here tripping, that I'm going through something.
Yeah.
And I have never in my life felt such an outpouring of love.
Did you see that clip on Nate from Boys to Men when they were singing the song Mama? And he lost it. I mean, he cried like a baby for like,
man.
I mean, it just triggered him. And the fellas were just kept singing, but the audience was just like, it's a human
amazing.
experience.
I know.
And you probably those are probably special because they connect with you so much more because you're so relatable in that moment.
I did the whole show. It was a great show. It was really interesting because when we got there, the sound system was whack. Yeah, and I'm going at the promoter. We're in Houston. You got a sound system like this. You got a sold out show. You got to fix this. And he couldn't find any more gear. I'm like, in all of Houston, you can't find any more gear to make this work. And I was on the show with some brothers from Baltimore, Rough Ends.
Okay, they were just here. We just
and they can really sing.
Oh yeah.
But they sound like a hot, wet mess on that stage. Not because of anything that they were doing,
right,
but because of the way the system was sounding. And I don't know why, but when I came out on stage, it seemed like the system just woke up and was what it was supposed to be. And people came to the stage. This is before they knew anything. Told them what was going on with me. Did the whole show. I got to the end. Got to With You, and dedicated to my mother. And of course, at that moment, I probably got through the first verse, and then the floodgates opened. I couldn't sing anymore.
Yeah.
And one of my background singers in that same moment took over, and so there was never a beat missed. And I just stood there and wept. And after the show, you know, I took my emotional self back to my room, which took me about 30 minutes because the place was so crowded. And my manager left the room, and he came back upstairs, which probably took him about an hour because it took me that long to get to the room. When he came back, he said, bro, they're still there. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He said, no, the audience, they're still there. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, it has changed. Now they're worshiping.
That's what I was thinking. It turned into a service.
Oh yeah.
He said you left them, and it turned into. Now I'm starting to get emotional. It turned into a praise and worship.
It's okay, bro.
So I went back downstairs just to be like a part of that energy. Like, you know,
that healing.
It was necessary.
Energy.
It was necessary, and I probably went from that. Got booked to go back to Houston like 5 times. Every other week, I'm in Houston. I'm like, y'all got to stop. I appreciate the work.
It's bad when you telling them,
you know
come on, you give me too much money. I can't come back to
No,
Houston.
it was great though. It was great. I'm sorry I'm emotional, but I'm an emotional being.
Bro,
You talk about my
that
mom.
chair right there. I don't know what it is. So many brothers have cried in that chair.
Yes, sir.
You know, another thing is about not being afraid to be vulnerable. Because, you know, we've been conditioned not to be who we are.
Exactly.
As emotional beings. I'm like, I'm half I'm literally 50% of my mother.
Right.
Who is a very emotional being. So how come it's not okay for me to be that way?
Right. Because I was going to ask you, because we talked about your father being a little bit more maybe stoic. He was a provider. I was going to say, how was your mom growing up?
My mom was a lion. She's a Leo. Protective of her cubs.
She could fill up a room.
She could fill up a room. Like we can be in a stadium and I can hear my mother laughing and find her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was that dominant.
What's your sign?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh, okay.
But there was a thing.
You tender-hearted.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Cancer.
Yeah, I'm very emotional. My emotions rise very close to the surface. And I'm my mama's baby.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm the only boy. So and I knew it was, and there was like, you know, my sisters, I was like, well, you know, y'all can just understand that it's me. It's not y'all, so don't even trip.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah, my mom is, and I still talk to her. That's how I know that love doesn't die. It's everlasting. It goes on and on because I can still have a conversation with her, and I can still hear her telling me. But you know what's interesting? My mother couldn't sing a note. My mother couldn't sing "Come to Jesus" in whole notes. She'd
be flat.
Flat, sharp, and all the other things that you could be all at one time.
Right. Okay.
But she always had a singing group.
That's crazy. Okay.
She couldn't sing.
All righty.
I was like, Mom, really, you can't sing.
She was gonna go for this thing. Them Leos, they gonna go for it though. You can't tell. So okay, so we got the profile of dad, got the profile of mom. Now, when you got into serious relationship, now I don't know if that was marriage or whatever, were you prepared? Were you not prepared? A little bit of both? How did that show up for you?
I was not prepared. Why? Because of all the things in my family my parents did give me. They didn't teach me anything about having a bank account. They didn't teach me anything about filing my taxes. They didn't teach me anything about running a business. They didn't teach me anything about, you know, the things that I was going to deal with when I left the home.
Right.
So I left home without a bank account because I didn't know any better. You know, so those practical things, I don't know, somehow maybe my sisters were paying attention and I was a bit aloof, but I didn't get it.
Right.
And so I kind of learned the hard way. You know?
Now, you brought that into, would you say marriage? Did you
I brought I had a couple of long-term relationships. Like before I got married, I was in a relationship for 9 years.
Okay.
But it was a relationship that I knew I wasn't gonna get married. Okay. But it was a good relationship, just because we did the same thing, and because I felt like she somehow felt like she was competing with me. For example, I'm working on a project, or I'll get music from a producer, you know, that wants to work with me or do a writing session. But if she wasn't involved in it, she became jealous.
That was early on that happened?
Pretty much the whole time, because we were both in the spotlight. You know, she was in a famous group, and then I was me, and then it just kind of...
Why do you think you stayed so long?
Because I was familiar. You know, we went to high school together. She was my friend.
Gotcha.
You know, and I kind of just dealt with the other things, you know, but I never popped the question, like, I don't know, I just felt like I ain't the one.
So what was the straw that broke the camel's back 9 years later?
I was the straw. because without if you're not grounded, and if you don't have people around you that keep it, when my mom and dad were around, when I go home, my mother be like, "Boy, go get that watermelon. You call it watermelon. Go get that watermelon out the car, or take that trash out, or bust themselves in the kitchen." That keeps it, because at home I had housekeepers. People took my trash out.
Right.
People went and got my watermelon out my car.
not at your mama's house.
But not at my mama's house. So that kept it, and they call me Tonio. So I'm not Tony Terry at home.
Okay.
I'm Tonio. And so, but when they weren't around, I might have lost sight of because I grew up very, very, in a very stout religious family. Okay. My grandmother had probably the most direct line to God and Jesus of anyone that I knew, and I'm sure there are others. But I just felt like she could call
denomination.
Kojic, Church of God.
Oh,
Christ.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, they cut up.
Oh yeah, that was serious bit. We're not talking Baptist. Y'all was serious.
Oh yeah.
They cut up.
Yeah.
And as much of that as I got, and I would walk into a space and somebody would say to a family member, not even directly to me, "There's something on him," and he running from it. But for me, I would be like, "Yeah, this is me. I'm doing this," even though I knew I wasn't.
Yeah.
I just kind of my ego let me take it, and so I wandered emotionally, spiritually, not grounded, trying this, trying that, even going as far as having experiences with substances, and having a great time, but at the ruination of other relationships. I let relationships go unnurtured, unattended. Okay. And friendships, to call someone a friend for me is not something that I can easily throw around. Yeah. Because I go through things with my friends. Mm-hmm. I know things about my friends.
Scripture says a friend loveth at all times.
So there's responsibilities. Yeah. I have to hold you accountable. You have to hold me accountable for things. And the people who were around me, when I looked back, who were not holding me accountable, I called them after I began to come through it, and I was like, "You was watching me spiral the drain. You never threw me a lifeline. I can't hold on to you."
Yeah.
Right.
You think you would have listened if they did throw the lifeline?
Well, I don't know, because they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Speculation. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so I had to let some of those people go on purpose. I told them I can't, because if it happens again, which I don't want it to, but if it does, you're not going to try to help me.
Right.
And then I also learned that I couldn't expect people to be the same kind of friend that I am.
Yes, sir.
And I did have that. I had that expectation, because I'm a giver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want the people that are with me to share in the things that I have, in the abundance, in the, in all of it. Yeah. But when it's not there, there's nobody around.
No.
When it all goes bad,
not at all.
Like, who am I going to call? When I need somebody, not even something, but I need somebody to just listen. Mm-hmm. Who is that going to be for me? Since I was that for everybody.
And you don't even take time to think about, is it here for me? Because you're just so busy
the only time I thought about it was when I was in the position that I needed it. And I realized, hey, I don't have nobody. And then that was a source of anxiety.
Yeah, because I thought it was different. Now I got to accept the reality. It's something altogether different. And you got to process that. So let me ask you this. So when you did get married, okay.
I thought I was with the love of my life for the rest of my life. And I'm going to have what mom and dad had.
So I was going to ask you that. What were you looking for?
I was looking for a partner.
What type of partner? Like seeing mom, right? Seeing
the
dad.
partner who, when you fall short, they fill in.
How did that look?
That looked like, there's a video on Instagram right now. And there's this dude, this is couple. You may have seen it. And it opens up with the guy saying, I'm broke. And he's obviously broken. Mm-hmm. And the girl, she grabs his hand, she's looking at him in the eye, she says, look, you are not broke. You put food on our table. You keep the lights on. You do this. You are not broke. In fact, you need a job, but guess what? When we're going to fill out these applications, and I'm going to do it with you. And, wherever you fall short is where I'm going to pick up. I got you. And I'm like, that's a kingmaker right there.
For sure.
That's somebody who's given, who is not going, she sees the value in her man. And she sees that, where he might stumble, that is really her responsibility to hold him up and not to judge him, but to help steer the ship in the right direction. That's your job.
Help me.
As a helpmate.
Right.
Did you have that in your marriage?
I didn't.
When did you realize you didn't?
There's a movie called War Room. Mm-hmm. Did you see that?
I think a long time ago, because it's a
long time ago.
Yeah.
I watched that movie. Didn't know what to expect.
Was that a Christian thing? Yeah.
And it was about this, this couple who, the husband was contemplating an affair. Uh-huh. And he was going with it. He was just going because their marriage was having some issues, and she was a realtor, and she went to this one house where she was trying to convince this older lady to sell her house. And it was obviously something on her, and the lady recognized it, and she told her, well, you got to go to battle. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's time for you to go to war. And she takes her into this closet, and this closet is full of sticky notes. I'm talking about top to bottom. And she's like, this is where I come to go to battle. This is where I come to fight for what's mine, and with prayer. And you put your prayers on your little sticky note, and you put it on the wall, and you pray for what you want. You give it to God, and you leave it there. And and the lady began her own war room with one sticky note. She put it in there. She started praying for her husband and praying for to cover him when he was not covering her. And while that was happening, and that I realized that I didn't have a woman who would cover me, who would go to war for me. And while watching that movie, I began to, with my emotional self, I'm talking about snotting.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting was that my wife never asked me what was wrong. Why are you crying? Why are you so emotional? Not once. And so I knew.
That's a sobering moment.
I knew. But I never shared it with her.
Yeah.
But I knew. It's like, so then it was a crystallizing moment for me.
Y'all have been married how long at this time?
Well, we've been married. We're still married.
Okay.
And I'm about to make this adjustment. But probably 14. I was with Tony Sanders when I went to see this movie. With Tony Sanders.
He probably needed it too.
He needed it too.
y'all might have both been there like.
On the sleeve, everything. It was just that thing to just. So it was probably about 15 years in at that time. Oh, maybe a little bit more. But there were things that I saw prior to that. Like I knew even before I got married. And if I'm being completely honest,
please do.
I was calling my daddy while he was on the airplane leaving my wedding, saying, "Dad, I think I made a mistake."
So I was on.
Hadn't even landed yet.
So you seen the signs early. You felt it.
Yeah, but if you would have asked me, well, then why did you do it? I couldn't tell you why. Maybe
familiar.
Maybe because I thought I was in love. But all the things that they say they're not supposed to happen, you're not supposed to see your bride right before. I saw my bride like literally right before the wedding. I was like, damn, that's messed up because I couldn't unsee it. Do you know what I mean? Like the door opened,
and a black cat walked across
right
the room.
Right before we were walking down the aisle, somebody comes out of the room that my wife was in, and there she is standing, and our eyes make like I was like, that's messed up because I already, you know,
I can't
because like, you
unsee
know,
that, right,
I couldn't unsee that. And then the things that had happened prior to that, that would have made me think twice about it. I just kind of made a mental note of it and just let it keep going. Maybe because my wife was such a dime. Maybe because, you know, I was, you know, I felt good about that which I had on my arm. Maybe I can. It's a hard question to answer now. I just can't put a definitive on it. But I let it happen. And even though I knew that she had even changed some of the vows.
Okay.
We were taking biblical vows, and she kind of customized them to fit what she wanted to have. So there were things that she took out.
Okay.
Crucial things like I promise to honor and obey.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna scratch that out. And so did she send it to her attorney, and then he said, "We'll take this out. Now we can negotiate."
None of that. It wasn't even that deep. You know, no prenup. No. You know, this is love. There's no need for a prenup because we're going to be married for the rest of our lives.
Right.
I actually said to her, you know, I'm only going to do this one time. So if you're not the one, because I'll take you and your faults, because I know that you're taking me and mine. So if we're not going to agree to work this out and just be and take it to the head, so to speak, we're in all the way in, then let's not do it. And she was like, I'm in too, but. I think that when I think about it, I actually said to her recently, and I'm not going to say her name, but I said that
push that mic over there to you just a little bit more.
I honestly don't believe, because if I'm really being honest with myself, I cannot say that I ever felt like you genuinely loved me. So then it would make me or any reasonable person say, then why?
Yeah.
And that's the question I can't answer.
Even to this day.
I can't. I can tell you that out of it, the apple of my eye was born, my son.
Okay. Now that's a whole nother animal. Do you feel like you were prepared based off your upbringing to be a parent?
Yes.
And did it?
I've been telling my son since I can remember as probably from actually the first thing I said was he looks like an alien. Once I got past that.
Right. It was all downhill from there. Yeah.
You sure that's my baby? Because he looks like an alien.
It happens when they first come out the oven. You know?
But after that, how
many kids do you have?
I have two. My daughter is 35. And my son will be 18 in November.
Oh.
So there was a little gap in that.
We skipped over that part.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, were you prepared for parenting?
No. Not for my first daughter.
What happened
It
there?
was a surprise. And my daughter's mother and I were actually not even a couple. In fact, when she would have been 6 months pregnant, she came to a concert that I was doing in Atlanta, and I saw her, and she was as svelte and tight-framed as she had always, as I had remembered her. In other words, she didn't look pregnant at all.
Yeah.
And she actually came to my concert and said, I had an abortion. And I believed her. But then it was 3 months later when she called, at which point I was with someone else, engaged, laying in the bed, awakened by a phone call from her saying, congratulations, you're a father. Well, I didn't believe her. And I called her a couple of choices.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't ever call me no more.
Right.
Hung up the phone, but it was so. And then she sued me for paternity, and I went to go to get my blood tested to confirm that I was a dad. But I saw this lady who looked like her mother, and she was holding this baby that was just losing it. Just crying, unstoppable. And I walked over to her, and no words were exchanged. She just handed me the baby, and the baby immediately stopped crying and started cooing. I'm like, oh, hell, dude. This is my baby.
This is my baby.
And but we had to, because we at that point had been mandated to do so, had to go get the blood test and all that kind of stuff.
But you knew.
At that point, I knew. But I hadn't told my family. And my mom found out because of an old friend of mine that I had ran into, and we were catching up, and I might have said something. Some chick talking about I got a baby by her, and blah, 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 blah. And she went, Tony told me he had a baby. And my mom calls me talking about, what's this baby I hear about? So they come up to New York and to meet her. My story is just weird. They come up to meet her, and my baby's mom brings her over, but my dad wasn't with them. My sisters and my mother come up, and they meet her, and they're gushing about how much my dad would lose his mind because the baby was so cute. So she's like, well, take her with you to meet him. And I'm like, yeah, because she wouldn't let me take the baby. Or she let my mom. Okay. So she took the baby. My mom and sisters took the baby, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, to meet my father. She was a flight attendant. And the next trip, she got arrested.
Who got arrested?
My baby's mother. She
For
came in
what?
from a trip, and the police arrested her because apparently she had stolen and forged some checks from some of her flight attendant friends, and had a little backstory about how she was going to sue me and pay everybody back, and don't worry about it. None of which I knew was going on. But now she's been arrested and has taken to jail, and my parents have our daughter.
Wow.
So they bring her back to New York, and now I have her. And I didn't know anything about raising a little girl. I'm Tony Terry. So, I'm having to groom her, and her little morning was
Crazy.
right. I tried to make the line straight. It just wasn't working out.
I gotta admit, I got 2 daughters. I nailed that.
Yeah,
man,
I did get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, I got it.
Yeah.
But the first couple of times, she was looking a little weird.
crazy.
Yeah,
It might have even been perceived as child abuse. You
Yeah.
can't do that to that baby.
But you figured it
Bring
out.
her out in these streets.
Right.
But I got it together. And so I have been going shopping for some new gear for myself. And there was this store in New York called Untitled, upstairs and downstairs, but you had to go outside to go upstairs or downstairs. I'm sorry, hitting the microphone. So my cousin's downstairs shopping for a girl group that he was dressing. And I go upstairs to, look for stuff for me. I think my daughter's with him. He thinks that she's with me. So we come downstairs. I got an arm full of clothes. He has an arm full of clothes. And we're like, well, where's Tanea?
Oh, God.
She was gone. New York City.
2 men and a baby.
He dropped his clothes. I dropped my clothes. He ran in one direction. I ran in the other direction. I didn't find her, so I was losing.
That's the worst feeling ever.
And when I coming back to the store, he had her, and he found her around the corner, and by then a crowd had gathered around her, and he grabbed her up.
How old was she?
2.
Oh, wow.
And somebody's like, well, how do we know that's your baby? And he was like, try to take her and find out. So at that moment, I was like, you're going to have to go home to mom and daddy, because I can't do this. I'm too busy being me.
So you needed your parents to
I took her home to my parents. And I took her home to my parents because I knew who they were. Yeah. I knew, my sisters were 17, 18, and they were still wearing collared dresses up to here.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's cogent. For sure.
You felt safe with them.
Yeah, it was safe, but I didn't know that the fallout from that was going to be that she felt abandoned. So it was a whole set of things going on that I just wasn't aware of because I was too busy being me. I was too wrapped up in being me. And
How old was she when you found this out?
she was an adult, and we started talking about life. And she, started talking about how she felt about me, and that she had some issues with me, and I didn't know that.
Now, does this remind you at all of the conversation you had with your dad, or you hadn't had that conversation yet?
Actually, I hadn't had that conversation with my father yet.
But it's eerily similar.
It is.
It is.
I mean, even down to, because my daughter was completely sheltered, because a small country town in North Carolina, not a lot of sensory things to do. Yeah. her first roommate was a lesbian who smoked weed, and she didn't know what neither one of those things were.
Oh wow.
Culture shock.
Yeah, so she was like, "What is that? What's that smell?" And the girl tells, she said, "That's what my daddy been doing all these years." Well,
Yeah. Okay.
what do you want?
What can I say?
You know, I mean,
Yeah, it's legal now.
so that was overload for her. She just was too much information that she had not experienced, which I cannot fault my parents because they gave her a lot of things that, she's an excellent parent now. She set her son up who has a trust fund, who has this and who has that and who has a savings and has had all the information that I wasn't given, but through my sister and my other sister, they somehow managed to pour that stuff into my daughter, even in my absence. And my daughter told me that, you didn't know that every time you came to visit, when you left home, I would take your pillow and sleep on it because it smelled like you.
I would have been done.
I was done.
I would have been. They wouldn't have been able to get me together, Doc.
I was
'Cause
done.
If I talk about it too
I didn't
long
know.
right now,
I didn't know. I didn't know. I was like, well, but what she didn't know was that I would go home and say, okay, I'm ready to take Tanea. And my family and my sister would say, no, you can't take her. So my daughter doesn't know that I had been fighting for her.
Right.
I've been fighting and I still haven't told her. Do you know that while they were raising you and doing this, that I was trying to get you back from them? And
why wouldn't they let you?
Because, they fell in love with her. She was theirs now.
Right.
Now, did they? But and did they not trust you with her at this point?
Maybe not, but not trust me in the sense that anything nefarious would happen, except for you're still too busy being you.
Right.
And
did they have a legitimate point with that?
No, not necessarily, because I think that if I had, when I felt okay, I'm grounded enough to take my daughter and raise her, if that had happened, then I would have stayed grounded. Oh, because I have to flip into, you can't do ABC because
right.
There's just certain things that you just can no longer do.
Right.
And be a responsible parent.
Yeah.
And so I think that it would have changed the dynamic of who I was and even my trajectory.
How so?
Because I was still wandering.
It would have gave you focus and purpose. Ooh, that's powerful.
How did you deal with that with your family as far as them not allowing you? Did it give you any resentment? Did they give you anything like?
Yeah, it's almost like they have forgotten that's what it was like, because I remember my sister saying, when Mother's Day come around or when Father's Day comes around, do you call me and say Happy Mother's Day, Father's Day? Because I was a mother. Yeah, but it was because it wasn't because it's because you wouldn't give her back to me.
Right.
I don't want to start that kind of confusion and things, because families, especially in our black families, we don't know how to talk to each other.
Nah.
Nope.
And we don't know how to talk to each other lovingly and with respect. And because we'll say things to each other, and then those things will fester. Yeah. They will start assuming things about each other.
Because we also don't know how to talk to each other, but we also don't know how to communicate. When it is there, like you said, it festers. Who taught us how to? What's wrong with you? Let's talk about it. Nobody teaches that.
Nobody does. I was me and him and my mom, actually, I got on the phone, right? So I talked to my mom. My dad had passed away some years ago now, but just growing up in our household, it was do as I say. You didn't, just certain things, you didn't ask.
Nobody checked on the children.
You know what I mean?
Nobody asked a child, how you doing?
No.
It was
nobody.
It was a twinge of neglect.
Yeah, because
first of all, physically you were okay. Yeah,
and so you don't have no problems.
No.
Right.
You got food on your table. You got a roof over your head. You got what kind of problems you got?
You ain't got nothing to say.
You don't have nothing to say. But we're small. We're just little adults.
Little people, man.
We're just little people.
Yeah.
The word children or child is what it is, but the reality is we're little adults.
Little adults. Yeah.
And I've always talked to my son like he was a small adult.
Yeah.
I never coddled him like he was a baby. And from you're a king.
Oh yeah.
You came from that.
Yeah.
And and so you have a responsibility. And when you leave this house, you govern yourself accordingly because you represent me.
Right.
So I've been telling him that since a kid. So I mean, since he could understand my language. So I'll say to him now, so what do I always tell you you are? He says, a king.
Now, did you feel like because of what happened with your daughter, you had to be ultra focused and intentional with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Because my daughter is not a daddy's girl. My daughter's more like my sister.
Which is, she's like what?
Her
Your
age-
daddy is, your daughter is like
More,
you.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
My
I was
sister,
saying
because
what
my
you're
mom and
saying.
dad
Okay.
raised her. So she's actually more like my sister than my daughter.
That would be
She called my dad dad.
and sad because it's like, how do you get that back? How do you change that?
You can't.
Cannot.
You can't. I can't change it.
You got to live with it.
She has to change it. I mean, it has to be a realization, a turn of a key in her that makes it change it. But I can't change it. But what I've done was to say, listen, if I could go back and do something different, I would, but I can't. So I have to now deal with you from here, right now, moving forward.
Right, yeah.
And I'm never going to leave until it's my time to go.
Right.
But I'm here, and I'm available.
Yeah.
And I don't hold her at fault for not fully locking into that, or even making that transition, because I know what it was.
Yeah.
Is
Are there moments of awkwardness when y'all communicate? Like,
I wouldn't say it may have been.
okay.
It may have been, but I just always say, just know that I love you.
Yeah.
Just know that I'm always going to be here for you. And that's all I can be.
Yeah.
I can't force, so if it clicks and she says, okay, I want my daddy, then I'll be there.
Yeah. And he and I, we always talk about there's no book to parenting.
I wish there was. I probably wouldn't have read it.
At least you would have had one. Yeah.
Nah.
Because
At first, I wouldn't have read it, but by now, I would have picked up the book. And said,
Right.
Okay,
well, even if you say the Bible, right, which I'm sure your parents figured that's what they were, they're still, first of all, each child has their own personality. You can have a baseline. I'm going to teach them to be honest, hardworking, and all that kind of stuff. But what about Tony's unique personality that's separate from
which
his
was
sisters?
a different beat, a different tempo, a different key than everyone else.
Right.
Did you? So with that being said, did you feel special or alienated?
Both. I felt especially alienated.
Right.
Did that matter?
No, seriously, because I knew that I was unique.
That's a good word.
And I've always known that. And even this gift that I have the ability to share, because I have never claimed it as mine. My grandmother gave me that. I never claimed what I can do as anything that had to do with me. It was a gift. And
because it came so freely, do you feel like did you always fully appreciated the gift? And
well, I can tell you this, all of the things that happened in my life, like the thing that was next and the thing that was next, and felt like that's the next thing it was supposed to be.
okay.
And that was the next thing that was supposed to be.
Okay.
And so I just went into it. Like, I wasn't even looking for a record deal when I got one, but I wanted a record deal, and I knew that I was going to have one. But I walked into it. I was in the studio recording, had been singing all day, voice good and warmed up, and somebody says, "Come and sing for these people," that I don't even know who I'm singing for. But been recording, I'm warmed up, I'm confident. I walk into the room, I sing for the people, and I leave that room with a 7-album deal. Now, somebody else probably would have been petrified to even walk into the room because they knew they were singing for the upper management at Capitol Records. But I didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just people.
Ignorance was bliss in that situation.
It was just people. Yeah. And my manager said, "He'll sing for these people." And I did. Yeah. And they was like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
Okay. But they wanted me to do something that I wasn't, if I had some, a mentor or some guidance, that maybe I would have done. But out of ignorance, which wasn't bliss at that. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. They wanted me to record Nat King Cole's catalog. I was 21. I'm like, Nat King Cole up in here. But I didn't know that Nat King Cole built Capitol
I was
Records.
gonna say that would expose you to a whole nother.
I didn't know that. And nobody said,
a
fool.
broader.
Nobody said,
definitely,
fool, Nat King Cole built Capitol Records.
Right, exactly.
That's
You
some
might-
different kind of money.
That's some different kind of money. So I didn't do it. I didn't want to.
You live and learn.
I didn't want to. And then my deal, before I ever sang a note in the studio, my deal was bought from Capitol by Sony. So maybe $20 million might have exchanged hands before I sang a note. Wow. And, then I go over to Epic Records, and the guy who would have been responsible for my career was Johnny Gill's godfather. So that's all he talked about was Johnny Gill. Johnny Gill was on Motown. He wasn't even on my label.
Okay, that wasn't Clarence, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I ain't gonna call these people. It
Oh,
wasn't
okay. Okay, I'm sorry. No, that's not him.
No, it wasn't Clarence.
Okay.
But it a lot of things happened, and I learned a lot. But I will say this about all of it: I'm grateful for all of it, all of the experiences, all of the failures, all of the missteps, all of the shortcomings, all of realizing what I could have had if I had done it this way, because I had to own it.
Oh yeah.
Because I have to realize that it's because of me, ultimately, that those things did or did not happen.
But that's where growth happens.
That's when growth happens, and then that's where soap comes into the picture. Where's soap at?
Sure.
That's like one of my dear friends
That's your manager?
She's my
right?
manager,
Yeah,
but we've
okay.
known each other for 35, 40 years. And she was a singer. She used to sing backup for Peebo, and she used to sing with Toto, and she used to sing with a whole bunch of famous people, and it's very focused, about the business, very business savvy, and although I'm 60, I've learned a lot, I've made a lot of mistakes, but it's not too late because I'm still here.
Oh, yeah,
Yes, sir.
for sure.
I'm still in the game. For some reason, God decided to preserve this.
Oh yeah.
It didn't for a lot of people.
He decided to preserve it, in my mind, for such a time as this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because now, it's the revamping, the relaunch is about to happen. And, there's some things I need to do to get it back. I got to get back in, top physical form, which I'm working on.
Oh, yeah.
And, got to get back into spiritual fitness. Got to get back into mental fitness. And, the mental issues and men is so far away from the spotlight. It's so not a part of the conversation.
It's not.
Right.
That, it's almost like it's taboo.
It has
Because how is it that taking a picture, smiling, showing my teeth says I'm weak? How does that translate?
Somebody started
Yeah.
that narrative, and
How does
somebody
that-
believed in it.
Yeah.
So now how does being an emotional being make me soft?
Yeah.
How does me pouring into my son, I love you,
Right.
I'm here for you, and I'm never gonna leave until it's time for me to go? How does that make me weak?
Yeah.
Being hard is killing us.
Yes, sir.
And you can see we've suppressed so much generationally that you can only take so much. And
We don't
now
even
it's-
tell it. Men. I'm suffering. I'm dying.
We don't talk about
But my pride won't let me say anything's bothering me but what I did realize that, if I've never been divorced, and I know you have, if I say something, you might might be able to help me navigate.
Bruh.
Exactly.
Our conversations.
If
that we would
my
have,
lights are out and I don't know how to, if I just say, bro, I'm going through something, and you might be able to, sometimes just talking about it
Talking about it.
takes
man.
the pressure off.
Yes, sir.
we're afraid to be judged, though.
And
We're afraid to take that risk.
a lot of that has to do, I think, with our counterparts, our females, the loves in our lives, because I think that they have a responsibility to create a safe space.
Oh, Absolutely.
You starting a whole nother podcast.
to have to create a safe space for us to be vulnerable without judgment. Because I've seen men, kind of being emotional, and I've seen women saying, "Can you shut your punk ass up?"
Yeah.
You crying like I don't know if I can cuss, but you crying like a bitch.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Stop all that. And you're a punk and this and that because I'm releasing.
Right.
And, but I have a song called "When a Man Cries," and one of the lines, in my opinion, is a very, very, very powerful line that says, "It takes a big man to let his pain show, but a bigger man to let the pain go."
Yeah.
But we hold on to so much, and we think that that it's macho, and it's not. To me, that's the weakness, the inability to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The inability to share with my son, the inability to share with my daughter. And I'm talking about not because you have anything to say about it or you have anything to say about it, but because I love my son.
Right,
and
right,
how
right.
come it's not okay for me to let him know that?
Right, exactly.
Because how many of us didn't tell our sons that? How many of us didn't tell our sons, help them realize their potential, and then the boys end up in jail? How many of us have just checked out?
And then the sons don't know how to express their anger.
They don't know how to be a man.
Don't know how to express their emotions, and it comes out as anger.
Which has become,
that's the only safe emotion to show. Anger. That's
it's
the only
the expected
acceptable
emotion.
Yeah.
It's expected and accepted. Anger. That's what they want us to be.
That's supposed to be strength. This is the only thing that y'all will take from me. Because
And
if
we
I
stay
cry,
there, I'm weak. But if we stay angry, if we stay mad, then guess what? The jails can stay full.
Oh, yes, sir.
They full of them right now.
If we stay angry, if we keep them mad, they're gonna break. They're gonna come and shoot up shit.
Tony?
And then we'll keep those jails, because those probably, if not all of them, a good 95% are for profit.
Oh yeah,
They're making money, so that it's in the owners, of which I heard Michael Jordan owned 4 prisons, but we're not going to talk about that. But it's in his best interest to keep brothers in jail because they make it.
So then there would be an entity that wouldn't want this kind of conversation to happen and catch fire. And there's something happening right now. I don't know, with men, specifically with black men, where these conversations are becoming far more frequent.
They have to. We're working on a project that hopefully, is going to take us to the continent of Africa, to several countries, to have just this kind of dialogue, because it doesn't happen. And when we told them, what we wanted to do, they were very excited. They were like, "What? You're going to talk about this with men?"
Oh yeah.
Well, absolutely, because guess what? Even here, it's taboo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. We have to do it in a forum like this because we haven't gotten to the place where we can have a convention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then everybody's there, and at the end of it, now they do that for women.
All day.
You know what I mean? They got the this and the that, and how you can feel better, and the fitness, and the whatever it is. But for men, it's kind of like
we can only come together for sports, man.
we can only come and talk and cars.
Yeah, macho things.
Macho things.
How many times have you been in the barber shop and dude be like, "Yeah, man, because it was hard, man." I mean, like
barbershop is really where that's the pulse.
That's supposed.
Hey,
That's the pulse of our community.
If you can have it happen there, that's an awesome place for it to happen.
Usually, if it's going to happen, it's in the barbershop. Mm-hmm. We have close and intimate, and by intimate, I just mean close.
Yeah,
relationships with our barbers. That do
our
barbers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
They know stuff about us.
Exactly.
You know what
They're
I mean?
the therapists.
They're the therapists, and they're our confidants.
Oh, indeed.
They're our springboards. Yeah. We bounce ideas off of our barber.
Yeah.
We share a lot with our barbers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But that's the reason why we really advocate to have this kind of conversation.
This is great.
Man.
I didn't know what we was going to talk about.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad we're not talking about music.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody knows the performer and the singer,
man.
but the man.
We definitely know that. So that's why we get
sniffling and shit. Somebody come here for that.
That's why we appreciate New Image Entertainment. We definitely got to give a big shout out to Car Mar Transportation, because he gives us, man, make sure
holding it down.
Yeah, he makes
had
sure
to freeze it in the car for a little little while, but that's,
Hey,
that's okay.
listen.
Yeah, but he got us here, man.
Hey,
And-
Car
and-
Mar, man.
Yeah.
All the celebrities gonna get you here, get you safe, make sure you're good. But
Yeah.
like Tony
I-
said, you're gonna freeze.
That's I've come to Cincinnati and to Dayton a lot, especially Tony Sanders with New Image Management was my manager for a long time.
That's our guy.
And I've met a lot of people here, and and dare I say have become friends with a lot of people here. And it seems like every time I come, I get a lot of support, and I'm able to reconnect with people that I might not have seen since the last time I was here. But it feels good to come here because most of the people that I know here are brothers.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And just kind of the fellowship and see each other and encourage each other.
We
And
need that, man. God, we need
to be grateful for each other. Not just to be, but to say it.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
I appreciate you, man.
yeah.
Thank you
Likewise.
for dapping up,
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely.
and look forward to the next time. That's a really good feeling.
The older you get, you appreciate it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
'Cause we can take it for granted when we're younger, but when you get north of 50,
Yeah.
woo, he ain't there yet. So he don't appreciate nothing.
Let me
Nah,
tell you,
yeah,
and the
shit,
next,
yeah,
like
man.
when you turn 60, the next day stuff gonna start popping.
oh man,
It's gonna start
Nah,
creeping.
bro.
I know.
Listen, I'm already in preparation, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
creaking.
Seems
It
like
may
the
not be
next
popping,
day.
but it's creaking.
Yeah, it's happening, man. It's
Yeah,
happening.
man.
But no, this ever since we've been rocking with Tony,
And it's been years now. It's like I just really, I was thinking about.
He's
how-
always talked to me about. He's like, yeah, Tony's
Tony,
down.
man,
He,
that's Tony,
he would
man.
always talk
He's-
so highly of you, man.
love his gift. Definitely love the way he is as a person more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the bigger thing I was able to connect with him on, man. He's a really
It's
good
easy
guy.
to just be. To me, it takes a whole lot of energy to maintain inflated ego
Yeah,
or to be attitudinal. Because that's a living thing. It has to be fed.
yeah.
And I don't have the energy to feed that, nor the desire. So it's easier for me to be the country boy that I am. Even in Atlanta, where I currently reside, I'll walk into the store and somebody can I get you change? And I'll say, well, you hungry? Is that what's up? And they're like, yeah, well, I'll buy you something to eat.
Yeah.
I can't give you no money.
Yeah.
Because, I've even had cases where people try to take what I bought them to eat back and get the money.
Take all kinds. Here's one thing I could say, man. Just it's my first time meeting you. You're just very authentic, man.
Thank you,
Your spirit. Because I'm an empath, it just means I feel very deeply. I feel people when I meet them. And so you do have that aura that when you come into a room, it elevates. The energy in the room goes up a bit. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you have the gift that you can turn it on. You can light up a room, but if you want to,
turn the light
you
off.
can. Yeah, because the
That's-
mood,
that's a
the mood
powerful
is going to
thing.
go with you.
That's a powerful. That's
It's a burden sometimes
It
too.
can be burdensome to know that the weight of that is on you. But again, it's so much easier to be light
Yeah.
than to be
Yes, sir.
dark. Darkness has to be fed, and because darkness consumes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it has to constantly be fed, where light gives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And since I'm a natural giver, sometimes to a fault.
But here's the thing about you. You've given before you've even done anything. Your presence is a gift.
Yeah.
And it's a saying I first heard Jay-Z said. He said, my presence is a present. And I think someone like yourself, that's definitely true.
Wow. I received that. Thank you. But I will also say to God be the glory.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because it's him.
Oh, yeah, no. You did nothing to get it.
It's him.
You know what I mean?
Him that's shining through. And sometimes I might have been guilty of getting in the way of his light shining.
Yeah, we all probably definitely
But I do, especially the older that I get, kind of want to consciously remove myself, get out the way.
Yep.
And sometimes pride and ego is difficult makes it difficult to let go, because it says you have to relinquish.
Yeah. Control.
You have to relinquish control.
Yeah. And
and have to let him. And we like to be in control.
And it's scary to not be in control.
Yeah.
On that note, we're gonna go ahead and bring this to an end because I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I could talk to you. For
I
4
thought we could go
hours.
another 25
Yeah, no, I could. You
You
know what I mean? But I know y'all have had a long day so far and probably want to get some rest. And I just, appreciate the time, man, that you've given us so graciously. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, brother.
Oh, man, listen.
Matters of the Heart.
Heart of the matter.
Heart of the Matter.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Great title.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Great title.
Thanks. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us. And as usual, hey, y'all subscribe. You want to keep these conversations coming, please support and please share it with somebody that you know needs to hear it. Y'all take care. Be blessed.
Be blessed. Peace.
Peace.